becomes more advanced. It becomes more able to compromise and more able to effectively neutralize the enemy. War never changes. Humankind has a nature, a primal instinct for conquering, for just being the most up top force throughout history. We've been known as, like, there's the alpha dogs, there's the, all that shit. It's seen in nature today. It's seen in animals. It's seen all this. It's an animalistic instinct or primal instinct we all have. And the fact that we try and hide that under the carpet or do it in an effective way of killing people, okay, neutralizing somebody with a bunch of millions of people with a toxin or some type of terrorist event, it's that I just see as, no, that's war. That's what it always has been. They're putting a shady way and an easier way for you to deal with it by saying there was, a slight toxin release and millions died in this chemical bomb. I'm like, that doesn't draw from the impact of what that was. That was terrible shit. That's no different from some dude going over, grabbing you by the head and slamming your face on a rock. That's no different.
No, that's pretty brutal. I would say.
I just think I hear you where we talk about capitalizing and all these types of things, but how do you think we can change from this? How do you think mankind will ever be able to overcome conquering?
No. I think that this is why we're seeing AI, because people think there's a better thing. I think there's a school of thought that man is flawed, and it brings up an interesting thing because Alex Jones is big about humanity. And he talks about this, and he's one of these big people. We are flawed, my friend. You see, every ism, every ocracy, every theory put on paper is really, really not so bad. Socialism on paper is not bad. Fuck, communism on paper is not so bad. Democracy on paper is not bad. Capitalism on paper is not bad. But when man fucks it up and corrupts it with the 7 deadly sins, whatever they are, your greed, your revenge, your power, your lust, all these things fuck it up. So all your isms and ocracies are now tarnished by man, by humanity, because we're flawed. And the Bible teaches you that as well. And it's really sad. I don't think there's a future for that, because so the battle now is going to be, do we deal with the flawed humanity, or do we let eventually AI not only come in, but possibly take over and do away with humanity? Who knows? You're already dealing with all the guilt of what you're doing to the planet, which they're lying to you about. Something's happening, but they're lying to you about how fast it's happening, and they're lying to you about what level it's happening. Partially why it's a lie.
Global warming's not real, and considering it's been the hottest basically year in summer ever in the recorded history.
I think that yes, it's getting hotter. I don't think that it's going to lead to the catastrophic effects that it says in 10 years. If that was true, why didn't you do something 10 years ago, or 20 or 30 or 40?
I don't think it's
politicians.
Well, if you look at
nobody's done anything forever. And wait, let me just say this. What happened to the ozone layer? So that's not our problem anymore. You notice that? See, you're a little young. The big thing was the aerosols and the ozone layer. Well, we did something about that.
Now I'm a little young, but I'm aware of the ozone layer. The whole factor behind it.
Why is that not a
it got eliminated when we realized that
anymore.
It got eliminated when they realized the main factor or contribution to the ozone layer becoming bigger and more harmful was the fact that cows, that whole manure process, all that farting and all that shitting.
Methane is a bigger problem than carbon.
Let me tell you something.
How about that? They're not even being honest with you about that.
The whole reason that the Church of Euthanasia has anybody against them is because everybody's like, it doesn't matter if everybody died on this earth, because cows are still producing more freaking whatever harmful gases than anything. I'm like, that pasture you walk by, but you know what's more important? A McDonald's cheeseburger and that cow that goes into that cheeseburger, and that makes money, which makes a money system, which makes you forget about the problems of the global
cattle and beef industry is a huge money maker. And by the way, they are now coming out with the Beyond Burger and the Impossible Burger to satisfy people and say, okay, you want to get rid of cows, you want to get rid of that, and it's probably best that we do. So it's very interesting, because now we're going to accept genetically modified hamburgers when the whole anti-GMO movement, it's really such a weird conundrum that's happening now. So it's okay to have a plant-based, made out of the blood of the stem of the weird, this iron, they manipulate like some iron thing out of it. I can't remember. It's called heme, Heme is the main ingredient of these phony burgers, and they're selling like hotcakes. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had one. They are identical to meat. But so you're having meatless burgers now made out of plants. But why are we okay with GMO burgers like that? I thought we were supposed to be against GMO, but I guess to save ourselves from the methane and the cows and all that, we're
I'm
going to
against
do that.
GMO when it comes to the concept of a never rotting tomato that they created that
Mhm.
never rots and it has no taste though. I'm
Right.
like, but doesn't that eliminate the whole experience of a taste of food? Like, why is
Do
it
they
that
care?
I was like, we look at McDonald's or some type of fast food restaurant. Why do you feel like shit after you eat it? Because I feel like they're doping you up in a way. Now
Well,
imagine
that's for
that.
sure. That's a
Imagine that, but I paint a piece of shit that doesn't have any taste and just paint it like a burger, flatten it out like a little patty and give it to you. You're gonna eat it. Why are you eating it? Oh, it's I just need something to sustain myself. When you start thinking of that and that easy shit, which I'm at fault of doing sometimes. Sometimes you don't have time, you have to rush and hurry up and make something quick. But I haven't had fast food in years because I'm like, the whole process of eating is to sustain our body and nutrition wise. Don't you want it to be delicious and an experience when you do it? I've podcasted with chefs that put their life into their work when it comes to cooking. Now, if you talk to anybody, like I said, it's all about getting experience. You said you had one question for me about what I want to do in my life, at least for the next 5 years. It
yeah,
is
your
getting
goal.
it is getting better at talking to people when it comes to learning more because we are getting if you follow an all right show, an all left show, whatever you want to do, any type of network that goes all one side, you're not hearing the opposing factors. You're not hearing the other side's opinions. I don't think that one side's right, one side's wrong. I don't think both sides are right. I don't think that at all. I'd say they're all have points. And I think I just have to listen to them and make my own justifications on bearing through all the horse shit. I need to understand with my own opinion. I can't give you any political thoughts because all my political thoughts are thoughts from other people. I have to give you what I have to see through by taking every little piece of evidence. And sadly, that'll never happen because there are so many people out there in the world and I don't have all the time in the world to podcast. I will do 6 in a night. I will do, it doesn't matter. I can never get it done. I can never talk to every single person, but I can talk to people like you. I can talk to other people that are doing inspiring things. I can
How
do
do you meet the
amazing
people that you
things.
talk to? Is it through Facebook, like how you?
I just started doing it through Facebook, but half the time I go to my just around my town, our local attractions, the boardwalk. It's literally like 2.5 miles of just nothing but carnival games on this giant stretch of wood planks and everything where everybody
Yeah,
just walks.
Oceanside, is it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you literally just walk around. If you look up Ocean City, Maryland, look up the
Ocean
boardwalk.
City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an ex-girlfriend that's over there.
And I just walk around. I printed out 1,600 business cards, started handing them out to people. And I'm just like, you got an hour? Talk. Let's talk. Let's do a
And people are
conversation.
calling you randomly and saying, "Yes, I want to get on your cast and talk with you." I mean, you're getting that kind of response, huh?
Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
mean, it was definitely sketchy at first. I probably was like, hey, I was handing them out a little bit like a handful at a time, like, yeah, whatever. But then I remember specifically there was this guy, we get a lot of like people trying to sell shit on the boardwalk. Well, a
Right.
dude walked up to me. He was a Chinese guy just in a monk outfit. Probably wasn't even a monk, wasn't anything like that. But he acted like he didn't speak English. And he goes, peace and love, and puts a wristband on my wrist, the little beaded thing he made. And I'm like, well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. I have this podcast to give my card and everything. He goes, donation? I'm like, I don't have any money, man. He goes, oh, and then takes it off my arm. I'm like, you fucking asshole.
Wow, man.
I'm like, I'm about to
He wasn't so
podcast with
sweet,
you
was
and
he?
find out why you're a douchebag. And then he did it to someone else walking down a thing. And the one guy was like, nah, man. And he walked away. And I was like, dude, he fucking got me too. He took that shit away from me as soon as I said I didn't have any money to give, man. And
I
he
was.
goes,
You reminded me of I was on a subway going to work in New York. I was probably your age, somewhere 19, 20, whatever. And somebody that was pretending to be blind was handing out little cards about Braille and sign language or whatever with like a little sign language kit. And on it, it's basically wanted a tip for them giving it to you. And they just threw it in your lap. Even if you didn't take it, they placed it on everybody. And then they would come back around to collect them back if you didn't give them money. And I don't know why I said something to the lady like, I don't want this or something to that effect. And she was supposed to be deaf. That's what it was. Yeah, sign language. She was deaf. Okay, not blind. And her back was to me and she's giving them things. And I said something like, I don't want this. And she turned around and took it from me. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be fucking deaf. How did you hear me? How did you hear me tell you I didn't want the card? But she
why did
like,
that blind guy catch that tennis ball I threw at him?
you
He fucking heard it. That's why.
ever seen the movie Airplane?
Yeah, I've seen the movie Airplane.
You reminded me of that part. And he's like, "This is a flower from the Church of Religious Consciousness," and he like punches the guy in the face. Like they were Moonies. So back in the day, it was like almost maybe like Hindus or Buddhists or whatever, and they had these little hair things at the top that would hang down, kind of like a man bun that you see now, or whatever. But like their whole head was shaved except the man bun. And those were characters in the movie, and it just reminded me what you're saying, like that.
Hashtag Jason Momoa, that beautiful man that rocks the man bun.
Jason Momoa. Somebody pitched that they want to make a Twins reboot with Jason Momoa and Peter Dinklage as the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito tandem. How about that?
I just saw that actually because Peter today's Jason Momoa's birthday, and Peter Dinklage put up a post for him, said happy birthday. And actually, what I would think is weird is that Jason Momoa got all that freaking outcry of all those people bitching at him about having a dad bod because he was on vacation and he was like, I was drinking beer and I was eating cake with my birthday and all experiencing this whole weekend with my family. I didn't think I had to keep a six-pack the whole time. Sorry.
How about that? He owes that explanation to anybody.
He literally outlies everything to everyone, telling everybody, all this is contour. This is all like me starving myself, getting myself into a position and getting myself into this scenario to play this role. But I don't keep that body all year round. I'm not freaking ripped Jason Momoa all the fucking time. But people see the dad bod and everyone's like, oh, he went out of shape. He's lost his career. He's lost all this stuff.
Like you said, it goes back to your mean situation. Find a way to knock down the guy. We love the guy. The evidence was in the fucking Aquaman did so much money and this and that, and then you just want to tear the guy down the moment you don't see his perfect ripped body. Very sad. We're very sad. Build him up to tear him down, man. Build him up to tear him.
Why do you love people in their prime, but don't love them in their fucking climb to get there?
And why are you looking for any way to like, so you can't really insult this guy any other way. You can't insult his money. You can't insult his looks. You can't insult the pussy he's got. You can't insult that he's a good father or whatever, all these things. What can you knock him on? Oh, his body didn't look good for the paparazzi at that one weekend or whatever. I mean, that's so fucking nuts.
Yeah, try making your photo look good without Instagram.
Yeah, it's just, and the fact that he has to owe someone an explanation for that. How about that? Like, he shouldn't have even gone on the air at all. And how about just a fuck you on your Instagram page, which he can't do because you got to appease all the people. But imagine he has to explain this to anybody. How about that? Like, is that where we're at? That you have to tell your public why you don't look ripped? Oh, by the way, all in the era of body shaming. So, like, again, it makes no sense. So you can't slut shame, you can't fat shame, you can't body shame, you can't donut shame, you can't pastafarian shame. But Jason Momoa can get knocked for dad bod, which, by the way, is now a new term that didn't exist 20 years ago. Dad bod. Fuck us, man. We're so fucked.
Do you think that though? Do you think that we're at a point where we can't turn back? Do you think we can't 100%. Turn the tides?
I think that this political climate shows it as well. I think when now everyone's a racist or a Nazi. Again, I come from Jewish blood, man. Do you understand what the Nazis, if you believe in the Holocaust? I guess some people don't. But, I mean, do you understand what the Nazis accomplished? And they didn't just kill Jews. Let's keep this under perspective. They killed 20 million people. 6 million of them, they put at a number, were Jews. 14 million was everyone else. So they were killing a whole lot of people.
Every single government program I probably looked up, I've dived into Germans. Probably 50,000 more German ones of the same sort.
Project. All their shit, guy. Don't you understand? NASA is Werner von Braun. That's
the whole Operation Paperclip. The fact that we took everything that goes into our thing, man.
Well, you know why that is? They were brilliant, and they had a lot of scientists, and they put an emphasis on science.
Well, the whole fact we even decided to chase down Hitler in World War II was because we found out that he was creating a nuclear bomb or a biochemical weapon that housed the Black Plague. Fucking Black Plague, dude. As soon as we heard that, the government was like, we're starting this shit and we're going in there.
Yeah, he's running.
That's what's happening.
By the way, he was once Times Man of the Year. Do you understand that this guy, before he became a maniac, was a highly revered politician that promised the German people prominence and delivered it? It took him delivering on one to capture the army to accomplish his second goal. He was a very interesting
great public speaker.
Oh my, the best maybe ever. Who do you see commandeer people like he did and had that shit on lockdown. You talk about goose stepping. I mean, these people had their march down. They had the kids infected with the idea. They
He
had the
freaking
people.
eliminated Jesus Christ out of Christmas.
How about that? And this
Christmas in
guy,
Nazi Germany from
by the
1943 to 1945, there were it was actually almost 3 years where they took Christ out of Christmas. The only thing they could not kill was Santa Claus.
there you go. And because that was, I guess they don't need some other deity in the way of Hitler, who probably looked at himself as godlike. You also know that the interesting thing about Hitler was he was extremely paranoid and he was very into the occult. You know that, right? Like
Yeah.
this guy believed in the alien shit and he was on a whole nother level. That's also why their science is on the level that it is, because they were believers in a lot of shit. Yeah, we put all those scientists to work. I got a movie to recommend for you that's incredible, an incredible movie, and I can't remember if it's based on a story, but have you seen Apt Pupil?
No.
Okay, so Apt Pupil is basically, I think it's Brad Renfro in it. I'm not
I'm
sure.
writing it down right now.
Okay, yeah, IMDb Apt Pupil. Long story short, it's a story about a young boy who befriends a Nazi. It's just some old man living in his building. And he likes the old man. He doesn't have any friends to play with, whatever. He visits the old man. He keeps talking to the old man. And then he sees the old man one day in the room wearing his fucking Nazi regalia.
Oh, shit. I've heard of this movie. I've never seen it, though.
Feeling it. Oh, it's so great. And he's feeling it. And the kid likes the guy. And it's like this juxtaposition of like, is he a bad guy? Is he not? He was a Nazi. He's not anymore. But he starts telling the kid about the stuff. And it's getting in his blood again. And I'm not going to go after that. But
half of the
good,
fucking,
man.
even though half of the fucking Nazis have come out saying that they were basically scared for their lives as well. And so many of these government projects they were talking about, you have to look at both sides of the thing.
Sure.
They had a blind allegiance to someone that they didn't know because he was such a good speaker. He was such a good political force that got people motivated, a whole boost of morale. And then you have the people that were doing shit that were trying to get out of it. And, you know, the Nuremberg trials, all those scientists that got put on trial, there was actually a lot of them that weren't condemned. And the whole aspect was that, you know, they gave us their research, so we let them off the hook for their hard crimes. But a lot of them were like, my family members, I felt in debt, like I had to protect them because I felt in danger.
That's legit.
Yeah. And it's the whole, I want you to look up something real quick. Check up, when you do get time, Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night.
Okay.
Unit 731 was the worst of, they were 10 times worse than the Nazis, 10 times.
Really?
They used to do types of experiments where they would test frostbite. They would dip people's body parts. You ever seen the movie Snowpiercer, where they stick the dude's arm out the window and it's so freezing cold temperatures outside that it gets hypothermia and frostbite in like not even under a minute? They bring it back in and they hit it with a fucking hammer and it shatters into glass and he's got no fucking arm. That was real shit that they did. Unit 731 used to do vivisections where they cut you from the bottom up while you were alive and in time and see how long you would just sit there in agony and pain. They would also they would cut off your left arm and sew it onto your right arm without giving you any anesthetics or anything to kind of keep that done. And they would just time it and see how long it would go. They would do some freak shit that make the Nazis look like angels.
We're thinking that these people that like we're not getting spied on and all this shit. Do you understand the evil you're explaining? I mean, you know, yeah, there's a Jeffrey Dahmer, yeah, there's a Ted Bundy. Listen to what you're just explaining, that the heinousness and the, like you said, treating people like an experiment is on some fucking shit, man.
Even though evil's around us, you don't even have to look hard for it. It's fucking there. You just gotta fucking take a second and then bam, you got all the information.
Yeah.
Now, Operations Cherry Blossoms at Night was directed by Hiroishi. Okay, this guy ran the whole Unit 731 program, or is Unit 731 or Unit 734? I think it's Unit 731. But Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night was 1945 when we bombed Hiroshima, Nagasaki, all that shit. When all that shit ended, Pearl Harbor, they had a planned attack 6 months before that all happened. It was supposed to be a month after we bombed them. A submarine with 3 to 6 bombs that were hooked to these little like aircraft, little, I guess, drones or whatever. whatever the technology was back then, that were filled with 150 million ticks each. Ticks,
Oh my
fleas,
God.
all these little types of insects that were filled with the bubonic plague, and it was supposed to hit the coast of San Diego. If that would have hit, we'd all be living in a fucking desolate wasteland, or we would all be Japanese right now. They would have won the war because America would have perished. You know how hard it is to kill one flea?
No, you're
Now
absolutely
imagine
right. That's like some crazy warfare shit right
they
there.
had it all
Yeah,
planned.
ticks and
And
fleas are tough.
after we bombed them and we had the trials and everything, Nuremberg trials, and then we did also a separate thing for Unit 731 and the people that were exposed with that, they
Right.
were like, wait a fucking minute. What is this plane that has this, or this submarine that has these planes inside of it, these little drone carrier aircraft things? And they're like, oh, that was this planned attack called Operations Cherry Blossoms at Night. They read into it. They're like, you would have fucked us. You would have won. And they were like, yeah, well, the whole idea is Operation Paperclip, where we split up the Nazi scientists. Well,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? We picked all the whole reason they called it Operation Paperclip was because they had files clipped to them that had the work they were doing and the research they were doing. Well, listen to this. Space, all that type of shit.
Mm-hmm.
America picked up all those scientists, which helped us win the space race. But when it comes to Russia, they picked up all the biological type shit, all that warfare type stuff, dealing with the
Right.
bubonic plague and shit. And then the Japanese, that got a little tiny sliver of the action because they didn't have that much of an impact when it came to helping America, England, and all these other places. They picked up chemical scientists, the guys that fueled their chemical engineering program. Now everybody's kind of at the same level when it comes to technology and war, because we're all that information the Nazis had is old now. It's old shit.
Right.
We're way past that now. But back then, that gave everybody a 10-year advancement in a different category when it comes to biological, chemical, or even space technology. It gave everybody a little 10-year gap between each other where it was like, all right, I'm a fuck ahead of you in the space program, bro. So now I can get my guys to the moon. Now,
Right.
do I think we landed on the moon when it happened? No. But that's probably for another podcast.
Right.
What I'm saying is there's evil lurking in the shadows, and those shadows tend to be all around us. And all you have to do is take 5 seconds to look into it, and you will find some shit. But I think too many people get scared at the fact that they can't afford their Starbucks Frappuccino, which seems like bigger worry than what's happening in Africa or some other shit like that the government's trying to keep from you, or really not even keep from you. Just make something else a major priority. The fact that it's $8 to get a salad at McDonald's. Are you fucking shitting me?
Right.
Well, man, I
That's
mean,
funny, man.
it's
Good stuff.
I know we you kept saying during the podcast, like, look, you're a younger generation. I'm like, but dude, I am pretty fucking open for my information basis, man. I know
Absolutely.
so many kids that won't even like want to even get into any government shit about it because they're like, how do you know all this stuff? I'm like, it's fucking there, man. How do you not want to know about our history?
The fact you have to understand all the knowledge is there. You have to have a thirst for it. You have to want to acquire it. There was a rapper named Razkaz that had a really good line in a song called Soul on Ice. He was a West Coast rapper, but he was really smart, not a weed guy or anything like that. And he had a line. He says how did it go? He said the knowledge of your wisdom is the circumference of your activity, or something like that. And it was really like profound. And I'm probably butchering it. You got to just look for the song Soul on Ice. It's really good. But it was such a good point. Is you only know what you choose to want to know. And even if you're a young man like yourself and you're ahead of your time in your quest for knowledge, your thirst to meet people and talk to people and have conversations where you don't know where they're going to lead to, you don't know where they're going to go. These people are essentially strangers to you. I imagine 90% of the people or 80% of who you talk to. And that you just have that in you that you want to explore. So that in and of itself is a victory and sets you apart from others. I don't know how much video game playing you do, or where if you immerse yourself in some other worlds, but I would say probably not too much if this is something that's of an interest to you, because this is real interaction. This is humanity. This is, humans sharing ideas and sharing opinions and learning from each other. And you're right. There's nothing wrong with that. I could see that your attitude, which you even when you talked about color and why can't we just all be tolerant and acceptant of this or whatever. You're right. In a perfect world, it would be that way. Unfortunately, we are tribalistic. And in America, especially, we like to group by easy categories. Indians are red, Chinese and Asians are yellow. We have black people, we have white people, we have brown people. We have old people, we have young people, we have fat people, we have tall people. We like to classify. We were doing hashtags before there were hashtags. We love putting people into groups, again, because it's about judgments. Now, if you want to go down your own personal rabbit hole about judgments and how to try to be free of judging people and worrying about people judging you, that's a whole another self-building thing. But it's all based on judgment and classification. And why do we do that? I think it goes back to your mean factor. We want to make ourselves feel better, even if it's at the expense of others. Because sometimes you can't make yourself feel better based on your own merits or your own accomplishments or your own achievements. So how do you then next do that? You do it at the expense of others. Pretty sad. Humanity is very flawed. We created the greatest things in the world, and then, like you said, we're the same people that'll send a giant bomb full of ticks at you. It's humanity.
Man. I think in a world of darkness, there's got to be a little bit of light, and I think it's really just honestly.
Where?
It's got to be, it's somewhere out there, and I'll go and search the ends of the earth just to try and find it.
There's nothing wrong with trying to find that. I agree. And I'm not saying be a pessimist. I'm saying, as someone who has 20 years of experience just on planet Earth over you, what I've seen, and I feel like it's a progression of, it's dark out there, man. It's dark out there, like Jeffrey Epstein and what's going to be uncovered with this if they really want to uncover it. It's dark out there. There's people doing bad shit. I always tell people, like, where do you think all these kidnapped kids wind up, man? It's a bad fate. Do you know how easy it is to kidnap a kid? I mean, what are we out of our? We live in a free society. Do you know how easy?
I wouldn't even say it's easy to kidnap a kid, man. Dude, I'd fucking hop in a van if he offered me a bag of fucking Snickers or
Look how easy it is. Exactly. Or help me find my dog or my cat. The kids are innocent. They're going to help you.
Oh, shit. Your dog's missing. All right. What's his name? Stevie.
Yeah.
Stevie!
Yeah. I got a $5 bill for you if you can help me find scraps.
$5? Hell yeah, man. That's better than I'm making a week.
It's scary. So kids meet bad fates. That's just a fact. What that fate is, I think there's a myriad of different things that happen. I think some kids are used sexually. I think some kids are murdered. I think some kids are forever in a basement and they're handcuffed there for 20 years. I think some kids are sold. I think some kids are used for labor. They're not molested. They're not whatever, but they work them. They fucking make them into slaves. Or I think a whole bunch of things happen. I think sometimes it's sold to just a family that wants to adopt a kid, and they're going to do it illegally, and they just keep the kid. And no one's the wiser or whatever. So I think there's all different fates that happen. But what I'm saying is, it's evil when you see all those missing kids and no one finds them and no one's trying, or our whole foster system that's full of children no one gives a fuck about. It's a humane society. Our entire foster system is just a humane society of people, and they're just not euthanized, but they're forgotten. And by the way, they are molested a lot, because nobody's checking on those kids. So they are abusing that system. It's so fucking terrible. So it's just,
when you stop looking at people as human beings, or same thing as yourself, if you stop looking at them like maybe you like how you look in the mirror, if you just start to look at them like they're just another nameless face, you lose the true aspect of what makes people great, and that's the objective caring. And in a world, we're losing that, and I think that's what sucks. And you know what? It highlights. I really want to thank you for being on my podcast, Josh, because
yes, sir,
you've not only helped me understand a little bit of, what your thoughts are on this world, but you've been open, and, you've made this was an awesome conversation, dude. We're running on almost 2 hours now. Yeah. And I'm like, it's when two people can get so passionate and get so into something and have just a good conversation, that really doesn't happen anymore. I mean, the fact family dinners are being eliminated, those aren't even a thing anymore. It's attention span. It's becoming shorter and shorter, and sooner or sooner we're gonna have to find something to keep us occupied.
It's nice
and I think
we were able to use technology to have a 2-hour conversation with someone I've never met, share ideas, learn a young man's ideas. When in fact, this is also the whole problem. Like you said, we're looking down at everything. There's no human communication anymore, no touching, no meeting people like that. But we were able to kind of buck the trend and do that in a way, the best way we could, not being together, but using technology, which is sort of the problem, which what you're talking about, to bridge a gap, to use it for positive, instead of that when you're in a restaurant and you look at a group of 4 at the restaurant and everybody's looking down their phones and nobody talks the whole time, and then they eat and they just go back to their thing and that's it. That's fucking nuts, man. Where people are very addicted. Your generation, more so than any other. I love my phone. I got a Galaxy Note 9, high-end phone. You know what I mean? I've had the T-Mobile Android fucking G1. I literally had the first smartphone ever, non-Apple. So I'm not guilt or innocent of having technology and all that shit, but I've never been addicted to a level like my daughter and what I've seen your generation, because I knew what it was like to not have it. And I kind of know what it's like to, one of the things maybe I can leave you on is I'm kind of blessed in a way because I watch technology through really Zoom, the platform we're using, during my lifetime, which was born in the 70s, child of the 80s. I literally watched video games get invented and then turn from Pong to the stand-up video game, to the Pac-Man, to the Asteroid, to the Space Invaders, to the home video gaming. I watched the entire evolution of video games. I watched the entire evolution of TV, other than black and white. I was there when there were 3 channels. Think about that. Your input, your stimulus was down to 3 channels, and it went off the air at night. That was it. No. Imagine this. This was the scope of your information. 3 channels, and you had to click, 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 click before cable came. I grew up in that, then into cable, then into the VCR, then to the DVD, then to streaming where we are now. I watched that evolution. The evolution of the phone. I was in a house where we had a rotary phone, and number 9 was that long run. No one wanted to do it. I was alive when you had to pay for long distance. Imagine that somebody was like, who are you talking to? I'm talking to cousin Scott. Whoa, hang that up. That's $1 a minute. Hang that up. I come from that. You know what I mean? So where you paid for phone calls and the thought of a video FaceTime was non-existent. So I watched the evolution of the phone, then go to the cordless phone, to the car phone, and then now the internet and just computers, where a computer was good for games and you could do a report on one, but it was never a portal to all this fucking information, what we have now, whatever. So I've been very blessed because I did without it, and then now I'm doing with it, to go through this technological. It's different for you because you were born into a lot of it, is what I'm saying. Doesn't make you bad. You had no choice when you were born. It was what it was. But you have a different scope, and you will have a continuously different scope when I'm dead, and you will be alive when the shit's really technologically advanced, and I won't even know from what you're going through, the same way you didn't know what I went through before. Do you know what I'm saying? But I come from an interesting era where I saw all the technological advancing.
I mean, I've spent most of my time hanging out with my grandparents, being raised by them, and then also having their influence. Where my great grandfather grew up in the 1920s. He dealt with that depression. And I saw him suck down a chicken bone and basically eat part of the bone.
Wow.
And it's kind of, if you ever see me eat chicken, that's kind of what I do too. I basically suck on the bone and get every last bit of it, even if you eat some of the bone. He taught me.
Poverty mentality.
I asked him that. I asked, why did you start doing this? And, he used to say clean plate club. So I'd sit there after drinking 3 things of chocolate milk, not wanting to eat my vegetables, not wanting to eat anything because I was full of chocolate milk. He goes, you're going to sit there. I would sit there. And so the next day, if it had to be, he'd wake up going into work big. All right, toss your plate in the fridge. You'll have it later for dinner. But he used to tell me, he goes, you don't understand why I do it. I don't do it because I have to. It's an instinct. I grew up and I had a time where I didn't have food.
Right.
You enjoy that shit now. And I said, damn, thanks, man. And I still carry his life on in my car that I have, that I deal with so many problems with, but I'm willing to keep it around because it's that connection. It's that bond. Every time I sit in that thing, I remember all the days he used to pull my ass out when I was 14 years old out of the freaking room because I didn't want to get out of there. I just wanted to sit inside, play video games all day, cut the grass, do this, do that. Do this, do that. Come on, we're going to go pull some weeds. We're going to cut some branches. We're going to do this stuff. It turned me into a worker. It turned me into someone that has calluses on their hands, that when I go shake somebody's hands, like, wow, it feels like sandpaper. It's so hard. I'm like, it's called working. Okay. My great grandfather told me, if you're going to be good at anything, you put 100% into that. You make sure that everything you do gets folded into that. He said, you're going to be a voice for people. You're going to stick up for other people. Then make sure you do it correctly. Make sure you're not listening to the dark side of you that goes over that and says like, oh, fuck this guy. Don't do that. because you don't understand what that person's going through.
Absolutely.
He said, you keep your mouth shut, you get your work done, and then you talk later. And I said, yes, sir. And next thing I know, I'm turning into this person where I see older people complimenting me. I never thought you'd hold the door open for me, Sonny. You look like such a stoner. Why are you judging me like that, man? I'm just like you,
Yeah.
but I'm willing to help you out.
Older
Exactly.
people, yeah. But you know why they're doing that, my friend? Because if I looked at you, I would assume that out of 100 of you, 90 of them don't hold the door. And guess what? 90 of them don't. And that's what separates you. And you should be proud of that instead of worrying, well, why do you see me this way? There's a reason why they see you that way. Because 90 of you don't hold that fucking door.
Yeah. Well, I like being the minority. I mean, I'm the only white person on all Mexican housekeeping staff. So, I mean, I'm
Right?
used to being the outlier, and honestly, that's what I
There you
like
go.
because it humbles you. Well,
Absolutely. Well, I mean, are you open to having somebody on more than once, or is it only a one-time
damn
thing?
right, dude. I'd love to have you back on again, dude. Hell,
All
I'd
right. So
even like
yeah,
to hop on your show, man. I doubt you'd want me to get on into politics, but 'cause I don't know too much. But I'd love having a
it doesn't have to be
discussion
politics. Well,
about
what I
people.
could do, we could do one of these as well again, and put it under my banner. My show, I don't do remotes like this. It's like kind of what I've been doing is in a live studio with a live person. So it's kind of a whole different format. This is actually the first why I was excited about taking your opportunity as well, and I didn't, renege on you was that this is my first opportunity in doing this. So I appreciate that for whatever was, you read my little story. And I think what we can talk about the next time is touch on how you found me and what it was, because I'd like to give you the whole strip club story. It's very entertaining. And I was never religious, and I'm just going to leave you on this note. I could very well be in a Panamanian prison right now, and rightfully should be. And the only reason I wasn't was because my boss, and there's a long story here. He was my best friend. He sent me home for 2 weeks, and then the raid happened while I was back here in Florida, and they went away for almost 3 years in a Panamanian prison innocently. If you check out Operation Odessa on Showtime, it's a Russian mobster is in that movie. It's a documentary, and I actually worked for that gentleman in Panama in the strip club business. It actually was a brothel. It wasn't even just a strip club. Panama is much like Las Vegas, so it's legal gambling, legal prostitution. It's a party town. And I actually worked in one of these places, and so it's a fascinating story. It's a fascinating story, and I'm very blessed to just be here. I have a certain thing with God now, because I could very well have been in there, and I'd either be dead or I'm still in there.
Yeah.
I didn't have the money or the power that they had. They got out, but they had it took a long time and a lot of money and a lot of influence to get out, and I didn't have that. So
Well, I've gotten into arguments with Jehovah's Witnesses. I've also talked to people who have had experience with God and a recognition, whether it was drug related or not. And let me tell you, I don't judge anybody on what they believe in. It might be for me, and I might not be. The same reason I'm not going to put on a pair of socks that don't fit me, because they're not for me. They're not fit for me. So if it's fit for somebody else, I'm not going to knock them for that.
right.
And the fact that you're able to you came on my podcast, you were able to talk to me, you're taking a couple hours out of your day, just being able to do
Sure.
that. And I appreciate it so much. And I want to give you a little spot here just to be able to plug your information. People can find you at what you do.
Sure. I appreciate that. So I have an Instagram and I have a Twitter. They're both Mr. Josh W, and it's spelled out Mister Josh W. It's very simple. Both of those are the same. My YouTube channel is fairly new, but if you just put in the Mr. Josh podcast, you'll find my YouTube channel and some videos, and I have some stuff on there that I'm growing out. And I have a podcast, and it's the Mr. Josh podcast. And I bought the .com, so it'll take you to my Buzzsprout, but you can find it on iTunes, you can find it on Spotify, you can find it on Google Play,
Basically any
podcast,
platform out there.
iHeartRadio. Say again.
So basically any platform out there.
Absolutely, all the biggest platforms. And then I also host, co-host of Ruthless Politics, also ruthlesspolitics.com. And again, you can listen to that on all the platforms. So that's pretty much what I have going on. I'm new to this. I think you have more experience than I do. So I tip my hat to you because I salute that you're doing this like I am. And that means you're proactive and you're serious about what you're doing. This is a skill and a craft, and you have to put time into this and effort and all this. And
A
it's like a
muscle, you
job.
got to work it. It's a
Yeah, this
muscle.
is work. And so I commend you, and I would definitely like the chance to come on and we could talk about anything. But at the very least, I'd like to share with you some really, really interesting stories about living overseas for the short time. And then I was a DJ and a manager in the strip club business for about 7 years in a very interesting club, and a lot of stories,
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate you being on this episode Out of the Blank, and I hope to have you on again soon.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Hey, man, I'll send you a friend request through my messenger.
Absolutely.
On my actual, like, Robbie Robertson. If you look me up on Facebook, that's me. So that's a way better way of contacting me over.
Oh yeah, that's fine. You'll be able to,
absolutely.
you'll do that,
Inbox.
and then yeah, absolutely, and then obviously, yeah, that'll make things easier, and we can communicate from there. And I record a lot of this or whatever, so whatever I can share with you, I will. I think my disk space started becoming an issue. It's a MacBook Air, and it has a very small not memory hard drive space or whatever. So what I have a lot of, I think, and even through the Zoom. So I'll make sure you get it as well.
Right on, man. All right, you have a awesome night, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to check out your stuff too. Thank you so much again for having me on. I appreciate it. Robbie Robertson, make sure you watch his show. What's the title again?
Out of the Blank podcast. And
Out of the Blank podcast. So I'm going to put a note, make sure, send me some shit from that. I'll put it on my Instagram. I have like 2,000 followers, not a whole lot, but I don't take it too seriously. So it's somebody, it's something. And if you get a chance, also check out my page. I'm very good at memes, the political memes or whatever. I also do Bitcoin shit. Oh, we could talk about Bitcoin. I'm a big proponent in Bitcoin. I know all about Bitcoin. I'm invested in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, so I could teach you some things about that. But I'm also known as the Bitcoin Bro, and I have that on Instagram. And it's kind of funny and kind of cool. I do this stupid character and talk about cryptocurrency. So yeah, I'm a meme master.
Well, just like Bernie Madoff, I'm about to Madoff with these wonderful experiences. Thanks, man, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Have a good night.
Take care.